what can you tell me about Kennebec potatoes?
Well, of the three that are here, that's the latest one. And it's a good potato for mashing and baking. And it stores pretty well. So it's kind of a white skinned potato and the flesh is white.
So by late, you mean it'll sprout late, or you can plant it the latest?
It will take the longest to get mature. That's what I mean. And people often, in places where they can plant them later, these are the ones that they store over the winter. That texture is really dry and mealy and is perfect for mashed potatoes or baked potatoes.
So how about the red ones? What can you tell me about them?
They are the earliest of these three potatoes, and they're really good for boiling. They have kind of a waxy texture, and they're fairly productive and a good one for Kansas because they produce before the weather gets so hot that it's hard on potatoes.
Which is what you want to find in Kansas.
Yeah.
And how about the Yukon Gold?
They are kind of an all-purpose potato and are sort of a medium early maturity. That means they would be later than the Norlands, but earlier than the Potates. And the most distinctive thing is that the inside flesh is yellow. And a lot of people are very fond of that color and flavor, especially for new potatoes. Something that I always notice about these is that they have very shallow eyes. That's really nice if you're going to peel them, but it's kind of hard to see where the sprouts are going to grow from sometimes. They're a fairly regular shaped potato, which is nice. And they have an interesting history. These were actually released in 1980. And they were a combination of a potato that came from Peru and one that was called Potates, which was an American variety, probably named after a mountain in Maine that is called Mount Katahdin. So they became very, the Yukon part of the name is named after a river in western Canada, I believe, where they did a lot of gold mining along the Yukon River. And gold miners early on learned that they could get vitamin C from potatoes and it would keep them from getting scurvy. So they were happy to have potatoes to eat. And in that part of the world, when they were doing gold mining, often they would go into the wilderness and not come out for weeks at a time. So they needed sources of food that could keep them healthy. Besides vitamin C, all potatoes are high in potassium and of course carbohydrates.
What kind of texture do these have compared to the other?
These are slightly waxy and slightly mealy, so they're kind of midway between these two.
So we have red Lesotho potatoes here. What can you tell me about them?
They're actually one of my favorite kinds of potatoes. Years ago, I saw that they were recommended by K-State Research and Extension, and I planted them then and have planted them many times since then, whenever I could find the seed available locally. They have pretty good production. They're kind of a mid-season maturity potato, and they are an all-purpose potato with a good balance of waxiness and starchiness, and they keep reasonably well. So just all around a really good potato. They're also more tolerant of hot weather than some kinds of potatoes are.
So like a stepped up brother of Yukon Gold, pretty much.
Yes. Red-skinned and white flesh.
After you get your potatoes home, about 3 to 5 days before you're going to plant them, it's a good idea to cut them into seed pieces so that each piece is about 1.5 ounces or 2 ounces in size, and so that it has at least one eye and preferably 2 eyes. One thing you might consider is discarding the place on the potato where there's lots of eyes clustered really close together. Just discard those eyes, because if you plant that, you're going to get lots of stems very close together, and when they're crowded like that, the potatoes can't grow very large. So here are different members of the family working together to get the seed pieces ready to plant. Here is the process of getting the garden cleared off and ready for planting the next crop of potatoes. So the tomato cages, the tomato vines, and the T-posts that kept the cages upright are being removed. And there's a broad fork being used to loosen the soil in this no-till garden. Next, the rows are made and the worm castings are added to the rows. And each of the potatoes are put in place about 1 foot apart with the eyes turned up, and it's being covered up.